And good Wednesday evening, and welcome to the WG, that's Wholesale Guitars Radio Podcast with Stevie B. So I want to welcome everybody today. We're starting a little bit early today, by a few minutes, and just want to welcome everybody, and it's great to be back on the air and feeling a little bit better than I did last week. Last week it was a little somber show, and I had a lot more talk than we did music, and I'll apologize for that. There are a lot of things that I want to talk about today as well. But, before we do that, let's go ahead and kick a song off for you. Let's kick one off with a little Susie Mojo with her song Whisper.
Late December, down at the barn, doing my chores like every day. Took me by the arm and he said, got a tale to tell, told no one before. It happened before you were born, back in the war. If it wasn't for the whisper, wasn't for mama's prayers, wasn't for love and family I had back there. If it wasn't for the whisper, I couldn't be your pawn. If it wasn't for the whisper, I wouldn't be here at all. I was hunkered down in a trench, bullets left and right. Heard a voice in my ear, no one in sight. It said, better move now, better move quick. Then I heard the blast as the border hit. If it wasn't for the whisper, wasn't for mama's prayers, wasn't for love and family I had back there. If it wasn't for the whisper, I couldn't be your pawn. If it wasn't for the whisper, I wouldn't be here at all. I hear his voice, clear as day. Medals on his picture, his memory never fades. A proud soldier went through hell. If it wasn't for the whisper, wouldn't have a story to tell. If it wasn't for the whisper, wasn't for mama's prayers, wasn't for love and family I had back there. If it wasn't for the whisper, I couldn't be your pawn. If it wasn't for the whisper, I wouldn't be here at all. Yeah. If it wasn't for the whisper, wasn't for the whisper, he heard the call.
Susie Mojo's Whisper. And again, we're waiting on some new music from Susie that's coming out this month, so we're hoping to have that on the air for you real soon. One of the things I want to talk about today, there's so much that we can discuss, and last week we talked about a lot about the protesting and the rioting and everything that went on, and I didn't get as much feedback as I was expecting, although we did have a large amount of people that listened to the show. Didn't get the opinions I was expecting. But I want to talk about something that happened in the wee hours of the morning this morning under the cover of darkness. Vincent Lamont Martin was released from prison on parole this morning, and it was done, like I said, at like 1 o'clock in the morning under the cover of the darkness. After Those of you who don't know, Vincent Martin was the individual who brutally murdered Officer Michael Connor back on November 13th of 1979. Michael Connor was making a routine traffic stop. He walked up to the vehicle, unbeknownst to him that Vincent Martin, along with some accomplices that were in the car with him, had just committed armed robbery. He was pulling him on a traffic stop. When he walked up to the window of the car, Vincent Lamont Martin shot Officer Connor in the neck with a .357 Magnum. When Officer Connor went to the ground, at that point, Vincent Lamar Martin got out of his car, stood over Officer Connor, and with a .357 Magnum, held it 3 to 4 inches away from his face and fired 4 more shots into Officer Connor. This man was given life plus 30 years, and he pulled 40 and was released. This is a convicted cop killer. It makes you wonder why he was released. And with everything going on against police officers right now because of the George Floyd case, a lot of people were talking about marching on Richmond and doing another protest at the monuments for the release of Vincent Martin. I have a problem with that. You know, once again, we've got people out there that want to hold every police officer accountable for the behavior of a few. To me, that's out and out ridiculous. You want to argue with me and tell me that, you know, not to hold all the protesters accountable by those that rioted. Well, there's no difference. The difference is just, you know, you had rioters mixed in with those protesting, and nobody was trying to stop those that were rioting. So I had a bit of a problem with that, but yet y'all get mad when that's said. But it was the same thing with police officers. You know, you had 1 or 2 bad ones, and yeah, there were 4 that were standing there that allowed it to happen, and it shouldn't have happened. So let's hold both sides accountable. Let's hold those that are rioting accountable. Let's hold those officers accountable. But let's not hate everyone because of the actions of a few ignorant people. And that goes for police officers as well as those that were rioting. But my point is, you know, this man was found guilty. He has not pulled his full time. He's going to be released here in the Richmond area, has been released here in the Richmond area. I understand he's going to be living in Henrico, in the West End. What's he going to do for a job? I mean, you know, we've got how many people? 30 million people out of work right now. Who's going to hire a convicted killer? I'm curious. So, and they did this in the middle of the night, because when he was originally supposed to be released, there was an investigation launched against the parole board. And the parole board had agreed that they were not going to release him until the investigation was finalized. Well, that happened to be a lie. And they released him under the cover of darkness last night, which to me is a little underhanded. You know, I find it odd that we have a governor and a mayor here in Richmond that want to seem to hide a lot of things. You know, regardless of how you feel in the letters that you wrote, it didn't bother them. They could care less. You mean nothing to them at this point. And, you know, Ralph Northam, who, if he had been a Republican, would have already been kicked out of office just based on, you know, the Klan hood or the blackface, whatever, which one was him that they claim. If he'd have been a Republican, he would already be out of office. But no, what happened was he is so bought by the left and by the liberals, the Bloombergs and the Soroses and the left as a whole. He's bought and paid for. That as long as he does what they tell him to do, they're going to let him stay in office, which is what happened. So regardless of what you believe as Virginians or what you want as Virginians, he doesn't care. It's not fazing him in the least at this point. So, think about that for a minute. Virginians voted this man in, but he's ignoring all the letters and everything that people had sent in to stop this release of Vincent Lamont Martin. So it doesn't matter what you think, I guess, in the eyes of Governor Northam. So that's one of the things that's kind of eating at me right now. A couple other things that are eating at me. I want to talk to you about these monuments that have been defaced, destroyed. Some of them, we had Christopher Columbus statue was pulled down and thrown into the pond. For what? I get that some people I see why people would be upset over some of the Monument Avenue statues, Robert E. Lee, Stonewall Jackson. And regardless of what people think, I could see how people could feel the way they do about those particular statues. And it took me a while because at one point you couldn't have convinced me that that was an issue. But when I put myself in the shoes of someone else, if I put myself in the shoes of a black man and I think, okay, well, 60s and 70s, we were still fighting for basic rights. I can see how they could see statues like that as holding them back. So I understand that portion of it. But to go down there and deface and destroy statues and to pull down a statue and oh, by the way, even threaten the news crew that was filming it, that's just ignorance, in my opinion. There are better ways that, some of these statues were already being talked about coming down, and you want to go down there and make a fool of yourself and yank them down. There's a right way to do things, and that's not the way to do it. I've had people tell me that riots are how things get done. Oh, excuse me. They call it peaceful protesting. It's not peaceful protesting if you're down there pulling statues down. Let me make that very clear. That's not a peaceful protest. That is a riot. So, and then we got a mayor who's not even letting the police department do anything about it. Interesting. Think about that for a minute. I'm going to play another one for you. We're going to play a little Josh Duncan, Gonna Do It Again.